Crypto is a place where you are either extremely excited and you believe you are changing the world, and then overnight you believe it's all doomed, it will disappear, it's a scam. I made the first transfer, realized I could make payment without any middleman. Called my two co-founders and told them, we have to do that.
He's built products used by tens of millions and faced crypto's volatility head-on.
A founder who still believes one global financial system can change everything.
Please welcome Itamar Lesuisse.
So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, you did not really realize what you were getting yourself into.
No, I think, yeah, look, everything is hard, but I think crypto has some unique element of volatility and difficulty. Yeah. We're subsidizing fees, but it went from costing us $1,000 a month to $1 million a month. We could definitely not afford that. I think it's just if you've been beaten down by cycles enough times, you are completely immune. You don't feel it. Honestly, there's no miracle. We've been through so many of those that now we barely feel it. I would do a lot of external meetings, BD, discussing with potential partners. So probably a third of my day or up to half is meetings, and then the other half is really diving into products. So I live between, Zoom, Google Meet, and Slack and Figma, basically. If you're alone, there's one day you'll give up. Everything is so hard. Several founders, there's always one to keep everyone motivated. We still usually believe that plugging the entire world to the same financial system can have tremendous benefits.
Hey Buildooors, this is Catherine, your host at the Buildooor podcast, a talk show where we share unfiltered thoughts and hard truth from the builders shaping crypto. Today, I am joined by Itamar Lesuisse, co-founder and CEO at Ready. Hi, Itamar. Very nice to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm excited about this.
Hey, Catherine. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I'm just going to dive right in because I have a lot of questions for you, and obviously your time is very valuable. So yeah, you have already built Peak from what I've gathered to 60 million users, right? And you're exited. Is that correct? Am I getting this correct? Right. And then you worked at Amazon, Visa, and BCG. Rationally, you could have just stayed in your comfy, non-volatile tech. So could you tell us what irrational part of you decided, hey, let me just build on the world's most volatile asset ever? So basically what I'm trying to ask is, why did you decide to, start building in crypto after you've been in a less volatile tech?
That's a good question. I think the start of the answer is when you start in crypto, you don't know how crypto will be. You just think it's another industry. You don't realize, okay, how thick it can be. But for us, really, back 2016, discovered crypto, bought my first ETH. I think it took me between 2016 and 2017 to manage to figure out how to buy that. Got it into a wallet, made a first transfer, realized I could make a payment without any middleman. Called my two co-founders and told them, we have to do that. So really for us, it felt like, a disruptive tech when it comes to payment. And we didn't look back. We started exploring the space, figure out the problem, and started there, yeah.
So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, you did not really realize what you were getting yourself into. Is that correct? You did not.
I think, yeah. Look, everything is hard, but I think crypto has some unique element of volatility and difficulty, yeah.
I have researched for this interview, obviously, as I should have. So in one of the interviews, you said that crypto is, and I quote, our best shot at a fair web and more open financial system. Do you still believe that? Is this still true?
So yeah, I still think that's so. I think that referred to I think what Mark Andreessen calls the original sin, which is browsers not having embedded payment, which meant that the entire free web relies on, advertising and basically monetizing your data, and therefore goes against any principle of privacy. I still think it's true. I think now crypto is finding also new areas of value. We see a big explosion around stablecoin, etc. But we still hugely believe that plugging the entire world to the same financial system can have tremendous benefits.
Mm-hmm. And all right, so I do have a little bit more philosophical questions down the road, but how would you describe Ready today? Because on the website it says an on-chain alternative to a bank, but essentially in its product, what is it?
So, though it looks like a neobank, it's not a bank. It's fully self-custodial, so users really own their money. But things about the benefit that typically a neobank would give you around ability to receive money, to pay, to earn, to grow your wealth, and then to spend with a card, basically. So that's really what Ready offers you in a way where users are fully in control, but also where they get more of the benefit, less middlemen in the middle, and especially of value in markets where you will not find the typical neobank players, or where, for example, here I moved to Buenos Aires for a few months. There's a massive distrust in their financial system, the government. They want access to dollar, and that's really something these unique rails of crypto rails can offer to those users.
Mm-hmm. So it's a financial platform. Is a wallet? I mean, I'm trying to get the best.
It's a consumer. We call it now a no bank. We try to call it a no bank, not a bank. But at the end, it feels exactly the same. You have all those benefits. It's just us. Already, you don't really need to trust us. We can't take away your funds. You have full control, and you get much more of the benefit. But from a user perspective, you have like you get an amazing card. It feels and look like any card you have used, just much prettier, with amazing cashback. It's a financial product that gives much more benefit to the end user.
Can I get one? This is a personal question. Given the political tensions going on around the world, I know that there are a lot of countries and regions that companies cannot work with. So who is this card available to? I'm asking for myself.
So we're expanding per markets, basically. Right now, I would say it's basically global, outside, except the US. We're adding the US soon. But of course, if you're a resident, not citizen, but resident of some sanctioned countries, you wouldn't be able to get a card. So. But basically, it's very likely you are in a good place. So
yeah, hopefully. You never know what you're going to wake up to, though, these days. Political news is something that keeps us all awake, for those of us.
And by the way, this is only for the card, the financial, the regulated products. We can't prevent really anyone from, we don't know where you are from. As a company, we don't know your identity. We don't know anything. So anyone can download a self-custodial product and do what they want with it. But as soon as you touch financial rails like cards, bank account, then there are strong regulatory barriers.
I'm going to touch a little bit later on. You can do whatever you want with that, just in terms of building. But the reason I ask is about the product itself is that I really wanted to phrase the next question beautifully, but I'm not sure I can. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask. So if you go back to 2017, 2018, right, what did you completely misunderstand about building let's say, a financial product like that you do now? Something that you did not know that you can only know building daily in this space. So what did you completely misunderstand about building a product like that?
So
any broken trees?
Yeah, I think so. Look, the original vision was exactly what we're doing now. Back 7 years ago, we had a product that felt almost like a neobank. We had abstracted all the complexity of crypto. It felt very close to what we have today. The two things we missed was probably, it's really around timing. Is one, the timing to get much more scalable blockchain. So without going into technical details, we were subsidizing fees. Users shouldn't have to think about transaction fees, blockchain, what we call gas fees. We were subsidizing that, but it went from costing us $1,000 a month to $1 million a month. We could definitely not afford that. So we completely missed how big the demand would grow versus how scalable the technology was. It took really few years for the technology to be there. And two is already, of course, the pace, and that's less of a surprise, but how fast regulation would progress. We couldn't have done this card. We're working with MasterCard and Visa. We couldn't have done those products 7 years ago. So it took really probably 5 years for the regulatory landscape to evolve in a way where you can really mix those two worlds of non-custodial crypto and traditional finance.
You mentioned regulations, and I didn't get that. Were the regulations taken too slow, or you think they were developing according to the technology? Was it too slow or too fast?
I think it was too slow. Look, I don't think we could expect it to be 10x faster. But it took a lot of time for, I think, the more traditional finance world to be comfortable with what we are doing. Let's say that way.
And can I ask you, where exactly are you regulated? Because I know that a lot of people are looking for a jurisdiction that will be welcoming builders like yourself. So Ready is regulated.
So actually, Ready is not a regulated entity because we don't touch your money. We don't interact with that. And we work with partners that handle this regulatory complexity.
All right. So the next question that I have for you, that you've led remote teams from Europe to across Europe, right? Since the early days in crypto. And could you be honest with us? What is harder, designing a non-custodial product like that, or schedule a leadership meeting across different time zones, different regions, different climates, and actually make everybody turn on their camera on? So what is more difficult?
So I think for us, remote has been working very well. First, we were really a native remote company, if I can call it that way. So we were remote before COVID. We started on day one as a remote company. My co-founder, Gerald, was my co-founder at 3 companies. He had spent probably years of his life sleeping on my sofa. We decided that was enough because before we were not remote. We were a London-based company. He had moved back to Belgium and he would spend his week on my sofa. Was not the best way. We decided to be remote from day one, but we did it, I think, in a way that worked well. First, we are cheating a little bit. We are all on similar time zone. So we're only in Europe, UK. Basically between Portugal and Ukraine are the 2 limits. So it's 2 hours difference time zone max. It's very easy. So much easier to be in sync, to make video calls if needed, etc. That's really the first cheat. I think that worked really well for us. We meet a lot. We spend a week together every quarter, etc. So all that made it quite manageable, for us. And I think the second important point is really not having a center of gravity. So we see a lot of companies that were not remote, and then they move to remote. But that means you have 80% of the team, half of the team that actually can meet most of the time. They can go in the same co-working space, and then you have people around that are left out. I'm not sitting in the same place than my co-founders, for example. And so that means there's not a place where there's more information and center of gravity where people can feel left out. That was really something that worked well for us too.
How many people do you have in your team right now?
It's around 50 people.
50 people. All right, 50 people. And then what I'm getting at is could you please share your day as a founder, non-Instagrammable, non-reels material or non-Twitter, but a real founder day, what it's like to wake up, manage Ready, and manage 50 people?
So, good question. I think I can talk for myself. But I think every founder will be every founder has 2 jobs. Yeah, but every founder has really 2 jobs in some way. So I'm the CEO, but my I would say my core skills are around products. So for personally, I would spend more time around product, while other might spend more time around tech. So for me, I mean, 50 cents big, but we have two products. We really have this Neobank alternative, and then we have a wallet. So we have two small teams. It's not like we have one big team. A lot of people that are quite senior that can manage their job very well, and that came with being remote first. So my job would really be a third of the day would be meetings, catching up with my co-founder on strategy, with products, with marketing. I would do a lot of external meetings, BD, discussing with potential partners. So probably a third of my day or up to half is meetings, and then the other half is really diving into products. So I would reserve a lot of time to look at the roadmap, the priorities, and then diving into specific features. How do we build the next version of our reward program, etc. I would say that's really so. I live between Zoom, Google Meet, and Slack and Figma, basically.
Oh yeah. I was actually gonna ask about product management task or anything. So Slack, Figma, and Monday, Asana, anything like that. How do you track your?
I don't. So we have those training tools. I don't have to go in that my team is handling. So we have documentation, we have specs, we use Notion. But I think I like to look a lot at. If it's a big project, I will look at the spec. But then, if not, I really like to visually see the product. So Figma, we try to have a lot of mock-ups, a demo before we move to development. So trying to really get a feel of the product before we move to engineering.
I have an interesting thought that I'm actually very curious about. UX and UI has been an issue, especially for DeFi products, and I've personally moderated more panels that could ever be possible to listen to about the hardships and hurdles of onboarding people into crypto because of a very complicated UX and UI, right? And you mentioned that you work on Figma and on product. What's one thing, or maybe a very interesting observation, that is a very unique to crypto in terms of design or design decision that you have found? So something that has worked in Web 2 but will never work in Web 3 regarding design or any other product features, or vice versa, something that is not working in Web 2 but is like very easy thing to do and very approachable to users in Web 3.
So I do think we were working, that it's a bit shifting, but we're working in a world with much more technical constraints. There is there is a reason why that the UX was maybe not the way people were expecting it. When you think about the constraints such as blockchain scalability, the fact that there are variable fees on blockchain, whether you want to be fully self-custodial for users, so meaning can the company freeze or steal user funds, all these are constrained. For good or bad reason, we decide to put on ourselves. If you remove every constraint, you are back to Web 2, and that's something that's happening. The best UX are actually really fully custodial, where a company can close a server and then everyone has lost their money. And people have really simply compromised, and we spent years building the tech so we didn't have to compromise. So I think being aware, I think that's the first shock, is people are like, hey, we like to have fresh people coming in without those crypto constraints in mind, and then they will challenge things. And of course, they are right from a US perspective, but then we tell them, look, it's not that we are just stupid around UX. There's a reason we do things like that. However, I do think we need to challenge that and build the tech so that we don't have to make those compromises of UX. And that's what I call like a crypto singularity, where the self-custodial UX becomes better or equal to typical Web 2 UX. And I think we are there, maybe give or take a few months. Another part of that is just that you need to build for your audience. And if your audience is very crypto native, very technical, then it's okay to actually have those more complex products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually I was going to follow up on what you said. So basically, if you're trying to build a very financially savvy but also open to new users product, it has to look as Web 2. Is that correct? Like, it has to look easy to use.
Yeah,
But
if your
as
audience is not, yeah, exactly. If your audience doesn't is not like crypto native using complex wallet all the time, then you need to build for them. But it's also okay to build for crypto natives.
but it's harder to build it more Web 2 native, right?
Yes. Again, if you put yourself constraints such as self-custodiality, etc., which we do, but I think the tech has evolved a lot. Where we are really getting there.
Going back to your previous experience and also your day as a founder. So, the first follow up that I have, what is the one thing, or maybe a couple of things, that you had to completely unlearn from managing people in Web 2 to managing them in Web 3? Maybe it's corporate structure in terms of thinking, maybe it's something else. So, what did you have to unlearn to be an efficient founder and CEO in Web 3?
I think mostly unlearn the belief that it's different. There is no difference.
All
You know,
right. Oh,
you
that's a
need to
good
you need
observation.
at the end your job as a founder is to give people a clear vision of where we're heading. So having a clear strategy, getting everyone excited about it, and then yes, probably put the structure so people can learn, develop themselves. It's not. It's a myth. I think that is that different in Web3. Again, in a company like ours, of course, maybe if you're a DAO working with like a decentralized autonomous organization working with only anonymous people, then maybe you have to think about things very differently. But you know, in most companies, managing people is same challenge, whatever your industry. Yeah.
So it's more about managing people and teams rather than, anything else, right? People are pretty much the same. I mean, they do have differences in Web3 in terms of character and their, preferences, financially speaking, but it's all about managing people, right? In the first place.
Yeah, and we hire many people who don't come from Web3. I mean, Web3 is very young, so by definition, if you want experienced people, you will go outside. I would say one thing to be maybe more mindful of. By definition, if people start to work in the space, at some point they will. You want people interested. That probably means they will have invested. They will own, maybe some ETH and Bitcoin, etc. And why I'm mentioning that is because that means suddenly they are. Whether your company is exposed to it or not, they are starting to be personally exposed to the ups and downs of crypto. And so the mood, people feel when you're in a bear market. Crypto is a place where you are either extremely excited and you believe you are changing the world, and then overnight you believe it's all doomed. It will disappear. It's a scam, and that's really huge mood swings, which is a problem. That still means the industry is extremely speculative. But you need to be mindful of your team. It can be hard to, maybe they are all those assets and they lost a lot of money, or they see the company next door becoming overnight $1 billion company on paper with their token, and you don't have a token maybe. So you need, I think, to be quite mindful of that.
Speaking of, have you noticed yourself the mood swings that you're talking about in bear versus bull markets in your team? Is it visible that you can yourself see that?
I think I'm sure it's there. We are not a team that we don't have a token. We don't talk usually about market price, etc. We try to not think about that. I mean, as a founder, those exist usually, but in every company, more about there's always. That's why I always say we need several founders to make sure there's always one that believes and that doesn't give up. If you're alone, there's one day you'll give up. Everything is so hard. You'll think, okay, it won't work. And if you're several founders, there's always one to keep everyone motivated. So the ups and downs are there, but the same way they are in every startup, because it's hard.
And what would you recommend to a person who has a token and whose company and price could be influenced by market swings beyond their own capabilities? So it's nothing that they're doing. It's just the market, let's say that. And you could clearly see that your team is worried and stressed, and they're not sure about tomorrow, because there are a lot of companies like that, even in media, where I have worked for almost 9 years. In crypto media is very visible in terms of, first of all, the news pieces that you can publish a day, the overall sentiment, the advertisers, the comments and stuff like that, and you're worried that you're going to be downsized during this particular bear cycle. So how would you recommend to founders to go about that? Because I think this is the time we're at. A lot of companies are shutting down divisions, downsizing right now. So what would you recommend to a founder on how to manage the team throughout crisis like that?
Of course, I think that it's not unique to crypto in the sense public companies will go through the same problem. We'll probably see at some point a phase where AI companies have to readjust expectation, for example. I think if the company is built around a clear long-term vision, then it's possible to give really clarity to the team of where we are going and ignore this local and down. Where it's of course harder, but that's a whole other topic, is if you have to make cuts, if you have to let people let go. I think as long as you treat people with respect and maximize transparency, we are a believer in extreme transparency. So we're very transparent. We've been from the start on when things are not going well or bad, and people can ask really any questions. We're transparent around our runway, around everything with the team. If you are transparent, then I think it's much easier to manage those ups and downs. People need to feel we're all in the same boat in some way.
All right. And then in terms of kind of financial management, right? As I've mentioned, there are different companies that are not maybe financially savvy. I have myself witnessed a lot of companies that are expanding during the bull market, not thinking about tomorrow, and expanding departments and their spendings, and they're celebrating the revenue. And then just one day it's all gone, as we have witnessed it. To be fair, right, to your previous point, in other industries, those cycles happen a lot less, often. So it takes a lot more years for a cycle to change. But in crypto, it could be within a year or even less. And so how would you recommend to go about your financing if you're like a company with around 20, 30 people, or even 50, and you're experiencing a really nice quarter or 2 or 3? And then how do you prepare yourself for mood swings, market swings, or I was just like cycle swings? So how would you financially do that?
I don't know if I have the perfect solution. I can share what's been different for us, how we have managed things. So, for example, in a typical startup, I would have a 12 to 18 months plan and have runway for 18 months. That's really how I would say was a typical way of doing things. In crypto, for example, I've always managed runway on 3 years. And much more because...
And you succeed doing that, right?
Yes. So whenever we raise, we would size the team and the organization in a way where we had at least 3 years runway.
It doesn't matter how the market is doing. It doesn't matter, right? It's not tied to...
That's what we decided, because what you don't want is 2 things. Of course, you don't want to over hire and suddenly the market is down and you have to, at least we didn't want that. We'd never have to do like mass layoff. And 2 is you don't want to fundraise, and you want to control the timing of your fundraising. And so if you have 18 months runway, you could end up that, after 9 months, we start a bear market that lasts more than a year, and therefore you will have to raise in bear market. Look, it can be done. People have raised in bear market, and some of the best companies are created in bear markets. But for us, we wanted to have control of the timing. And so with 3 years, we can always make sure we will fundraise whenever the time is right from a market perspective and a company traction perspective. That was the main difference in how we've managed things. And then in general, once you understand crypto, you know that those wave of success is temporary. You want to take advantage of them, but doubling your team overnight for something that will likely only last 6 to 9 months is probably not the wisest move.
And you mentioned fundraising, right? And I've heard this. Actually, some of our guests have expressed the same thoughts that companies that are raising in the bear market and are built in bear market are more sustainable and more probably true to what crypto users need. It makes sense, right? Because you're not chasing cloud in a way. So, and how would you recommend to people who are starting right now and looking to raise, and they think that they need to raise funding at this point, whether it's pre-seed, seed A, seed, it doesn't matter. They need to raise, right? How would you recommend to go about this in this specific cycle? And do not think about it as just a bear cycle, but I'm talking about 2025, this particular maybe regulatory heaven, as some people call it. How would you, what would you recommend to people? How should they go about this?
Good question. I'm trying to think what has changed most in the fundraising. I think there's clearly a different. Crypto has changed. I think there was a phase of extreme hype, which of course makes it easier to raise. On the other hand, and so we have less of that. People might throw less money blindly in any project. On the other hand, we are now in a phase of much higher utility. So there are much more projects. I mean, we're talking about the like of Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, Klarna last week, all jumping into crypto, like big public companies embracing crypto, mostly through the stablecoin angle. But you have a lot more of high utility and high conviction verticals now in crypto, and so I think that makes it easier, I think, to raise if you are a project that can demonstrate clear product market fit. So I would just advise to stay as small as possible until you have very strong conviction on product market fit of your product. You can now fundraise beyond just crypto investors also. That's what I think has changed. So yeah, I think it's still a decent environment for that. It's just, of course, that AI takes so much of people's attention, but you will always find funds that don't want to be just investing in consensus ideas. And
so maybe, and I'm just joking, of course, but maybe if they really feel like they need to raise, they should add AI to the description of the product. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
okay,
Because
I would avoid.
from what we have seen, traditional financial markets wise, it looks like investors are starting to feel differently about companies that are just, slashing the word AI on their products. And according to Bloomberg, investors feel that we're approaching the burst of AI bubble. That's why, there's a little bit of a tension in terms of the stock markets worldwide. But yeah, I mean, it's fair. We've all been there. And I mean, by that, crypto has been there as well. Thank you for that. But I wanted to have hopefully an appropriate observation. So Itamar, you look like a very calm person, experienced, it feels like you know what you're doing, right? And not very bothered by cycles. Do you have, is it your character, is it your personality, or do you have certain steps that calm you down during this storm that it is crypto?
I think it's just if you've been beaten down by cycles enough times, you are completely immune.
All right.
You don't feel it. Honestly, there's no miracle. We have been through so many of those that now we barely feel it. So it's pure. It's resilience through fire. Yeah.
Fair. Is it? I'm kind of trying to go back to the your day question, because maybe there are certain techniques about how you start your day, or maybe you meditate throughout the day, as Axelrod in the TV series called Billion, for instance, or anything else. How do you keep calm, and how do you not kill yourself with your thoughts? And metaphorically speaking, of course, how do you not overwhelm yourself? Sorry, that was a poor choice of words. So how do you calm yourself?
So I think a big fan of Axelrod. Look, I think everyone needs to find their own ways. And I know people use meditation. I know some for who sport is the key. For me, it's really been my co-founders. We are, well, such good friends for decades now. And as soon as if there's ups and downs, talking to them or taking a train or flying to meet them is my solution. And so for me, that's what calms me down and keeps me focused, basically.
You know what I found from Billions is that even though Axelrod does do those meditation, it feels like it's not really helping him because like he tends to still make rational decisions based on trauma that Wendy sometimes it's not helpful with that, and so he just like makes the decision, buys the house. All right, I'm just kidding. I'm happy to find a fan as well. But going back to your co-founders, right? How many you I can't believe I haven't asked that
we are
before.
three co-founders. We are three co-founders.
A trio. All right. Is it true that it's not really easy to stay friends and run a company? Because that's what people say. Never become friends with your coworkers or never build businesses with your friends. Is it true for you?
Look, people say that about friends, about family. There are great example and counterexample. I think for me, it's been fantastic experience. I've known Gerald since I'm 2 years old. I've known Julian since I'm 18. So it's been a while. I think it needs to be, again, maybe, if you are just, I don't know, like a light friends, I don't know how you measure the deep depths of friendship, but there's probably a range where it's dangerous, where you're not close enough that anything can break you apart. But you are so it's about really finding the right balance. So for us, we are close enough that really we can grow through those pains. We are, I think, complementary enough, in the sense that if you overlap too much with different people, with your co-founder on skills, maybe you'll have more argument, etc. So I feel we are just the right balance in terms of skills, in terms of ego, maybe where. There's not someone with like some massive ego, but I think it's also the ability to have to have strong argument and strong disagreement, but still be friends 2 minutes later. And we've always managed that very well.
All right, so that's a very surprising skill to differentiate between personal and professional, right? So from what I hear you saying is that you can have disagreements on decisions throughout the company and on the product and stuff, but then you're still friends at the end of the day. Is that correct?
Exactly. And my previous company, it was the same. People would see us, we were in a physical office, would see us shout and fight each other in that glass meeting room where everyone could hear everything. And then we'll say, okay, let's grab lunch now. And you need to be able to separate that. It's not personal.
Wow, this is admiring that. This is not something that you can actually come by very often. So I really hope that you guys could keep it up. And my final question on this topic, is it because of that you said we don't have that fragile egos? Is that why? I'm just trying to be helpful to other founders and co-founders. So what's the main secret? Is not to think too much about oneself, or what's the secret?
I think the ego clearly plays a role, not having too much of an ego. I think just agreeing who has the last word on which topic. At the end, look, on most of the things, there's no good or bad decision. The only bad decision, I think, is the slow decision. So speed of decision is more important than quality of decision for 90% of decisions. There's probably 2-3 decisions a year in your company that really matters. The rest is about speed. And maybe, I probably won't have the last word on tech. People need to agree. Maybe I'll have the last word on product. It doesn't mean my opinion is better at the end, but if you have clear ownership, you can manage that better.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for that. And I hope that a lot of people will take that under advisement. So, my last question to you is: you are an, can I call you an active user on X? Are you an active X user?
I'm
Is
relatively
that
active and I'm forced to
right?
be.
You're
My
forced to
marketing
be.
team wants me to be.
All right, this is a good phrase that I could follow up on. Does that mean that you don't want to, but you feel obligated to? Because
No,
that's
no.
exactly what it is.
Look, I enjoy it, but I think it's a great way because our community is so much on X. It's a great way to really be in direct contact. In the early days, I would like my direct contact would be doing customer support, for example. So I think X is a good way to do that. It's just in general, it's so unhealthy. It exposes you to all the ups and downs, to so much. I mean, even outside just crypto, so much
It is.
hate and anger on social
Very
network.
true.
Yeah.
Very true. So my question was about a little bit of a advice that you can give to people, because being a visible founder, right? It means that every tweet could be half product marketing, half community driven. You're talking to users potential, right, and half political act, depending on what you're talking about, right? And how do you decide, or how does one should decide on what's worth speaking on, and knowing there is a risk of blowback for you and for the company, because you're not only Itamar, you're Itamar, the co-founder and CEO of Ready all the time, correct? So how do you
So
decide on what's worth mentioning on? Because we
it's
have seen different
it's
cases.
yeah, no, it's a good question. I don't know if I have the answer because on one hand, you can't separate those two things. It's not like you have your work account and then your personal account,
I mean,
unless
you
you're like
can,
some
but who
you
has the time?
if you are an anon maybe, and then you need so. And on one hand, of course, you could really be very dry and professional all the time, but then you could argue you don't make a personal connection. People don't learn who don't learn who you are. So I think you need to just resist the urge sometimes to post about some stuff or reply about some topics. There are sensitivities around so many things. So,
Yeah.
but again, in general, it's not like I'm chasing some followers or whatever. So I try to keep it 80% about the work. It's X is I see it almost more as a social network for work than personal. Yeah.
So kind of keep yourself in check. Just think about before posting. Just at
That
least.
would be my advice. But look, there are people who do very well, and clearly they never think before posting. So
True.
yeah,
And one thing is also true. You never know what's going to bring you trouble, to be fair. You never know. I mean, there are obviously topics that are sensitive, but these days you could wear a black hat or a gray hat or glasses and you could offend somebody. So you never know. It could still be problematic. It just depends, I guess, on
there
the
are
day of
people
the
who will
week.
get angry at anything on X. There's
Yes.
no lack of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
The true of social media. Itamar, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your time. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And hopefully, people who are listening to that or watching this will learn a lot more about managing, building products, crypto products in the crypto space, and staying sane. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin.